What's up, nerds and nerdettes? This is the podcast where everyone knows your name. Cheers to ya.
Cheers to ya. I'm Josh.
And I'm Tyler, and this is 30 and Nerdy, and we are coming at you again from the Fortress of Nerditude with yours truly, the registered nerd practitioner, the founder of Nerdlich himself, that'd be me, the Mac. And as always, it's great to be joined by my co-host, the juicy one, the nerdtorious JLD, with his PhD in nerdology, Dr. Davis himself.
Who is still 29.
Okay. I'll allow that because you only have like a couple of weeks.
I only do it a couple more times. It's a sad time in my life.
So I'll allow it for this one. And for those of you listening again, thank you very much. It means a lot, all the new subscriptions and follows and likes that we get week in and week out. If you're listening for the first time, you can subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Overcast, Pocket Cast, TuneIn, Radio Public, and of course we have a YouTube channel. And please, if you have any questions or comments, you can send those at 30andnerdypod@gmail.com. And we are, of course, on social media like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And we have a pretty cool website, 30andnerdypodcast.com. Check it out.
If you're listening for the first time, first of all, welcome. Mm-hmm. And second of all, where have you been?
In a rock. Under a rock.
Must be. And if you're returning, welcome back.
Welcome back.
We love you.
Yes. We'd love to have you.
So, hey, this week on the show, I'm really excited because we're going to do all our typical stuff. What you watching? We're going to have a nerd word. We're going to talk about the news from this week. And we are going to do a special break it down of Stranger Things 2. We had so much fun with Stranger Things 1, and we decided to do it again for Season 2. Yes. And there's a lot of excitement about Season 3 that comes out in the next few days, 4th of July.
Oh, man, I'm
so
stoked.
We decided, hey, no time like the present, Stranger Things 2. So everybody break out your egos, sit back, relax, and let's have some fun with that.
I'm very excited for this episode. And so, brother, how have you been?
You know, I've been pretty well, man. I went to Memphis this past week.
Yeah.
Went to see the sights, ate some good food, heard some good music. I went to the National Civil Rights Museum, which was, let me tell you, that was really something. Everyone needs to experience that. Mm-hmm. It's located in the Lorraine Motel, which is actually the motel that Martin Luther King Jr. was killed. Yeah. So you can go and you can see into the room that he stayed in. You can see out the window on the porch. They have a wreath hanging there where he was shot. It's totally indescribable. Wow. Everyone should see that. Of course, went to Graceland. Went to see the King. So had a great time. So how about you, man? You've had a busy weekend.
It's been a crazy weekend. We opened Mamma Mia, and I believe just in this weekend we had a little over 1,000 people see the show.
Good night in the morning.
Yeah. Very successful, very energetic. It did not go without yet another injury to myself. And I haven't told you about this one, but I dislocated my thumb.
What?
Yeah. So
of course you did.
It's pretty fun.
I think I said this last week, but it's no joke. The theater is a dangerous place, man. You got to have your wits about you when you step up in there.
It is, but it's basically just getting used to the soreness, and I mean, people have just turned out in droves, and they're singing along. Of course, It's ABBA, and they're getting up, and they're dancing, and they're having a blast, and the cast is having fun, too. I mean, when you see the audience having as much fun as that, then you can't help but smile and have fun.
Yeah, there's a really special connection between the performers and a live audience. That's why there's nothing like theater. You know, movies and TV and all that stuff, of course, are great, and we love them, but there's nothing like live theater.
Yeah.
And you feed so much as a performer off of the energy from the audience. So if you're someone who goes to a lot of shows, keep this in mind. The more energy that you have and the more excited you are, the more you're going to get from the performers. So,
and we just eat it up.
Yeah.
I mean, however, today it's our buddy Brent. It's his birthday.
happy birthday, Brent.
20 years old. And
Young lad.
we were out to eat at Texas Roadhouse, and I got to tell you this story. We're talking about different people's birthdays, because like there, at the same time we were celebrating Brent's, there was probably 12 other people's birthday going on.
Or they just wanted the free cake.
Or they just wanted the free thing in the song. So we're talking about each other's birthdays, and my buddy Andrew Alder is sitting beside me, and he's trying to guess my birthday, and February, August, and he's just getting it wrong. And finally, he gets April right, and he just starts saying 1, 2, 3, 4, and then he
Great guess.
went to like 15 or something, and I just looked at him. I think Madison, my girlfriend, mouthed it to him, but he said, "Oh, the 10th," and then she says, "Mine's Star Wars Day," and just without missing a beat, he goes, "May 1st." And I hit the floor. I was just like, oh! I had a nerd explosion in my head. I mean, my brain blew up. I just freaked out for like 10 seconds and had this stroke. And he just goes, "I'm just playing with you, man. It's May the 4th. I know that."
That's awesome.
I was just like, dude, you almost just had the full wrath of the Nerd Nation come after you.
You certainly don't want to have a nerd explosion.
No, you don't want a nerd explosion.
That sounds dangerous.
It was painful, but I mean, it was funny afterwards. Everybody laughed, and I said, I'm bringing that up on the episode.
You remember that scene in The Office when Jim was trying to get a rise out of Dwight, and he was talking like he kept mixing up Star Trek and Harry Potter and Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and stuff like that,
Battlestar Galactica and all that. He was trying to see if he could get a rise out of him. I mean, he did it. he succeeded. I about came out that chair.
I would have too. God, can you imagine if I'd been there?
Oh man, if you'd have been there, you'd have been like, son, you better pack a lunch because I'm taking you to school. But it was fun. It was fun.
Speaking of Lord of the Rings, I just mentioned, did you get any feedback from last week's mega episode?
Yeah, a lot of people liked it. And the views on our podcast hosting site, people are listening to it still like crazy. Good. And loving it, and I'm getting some feedback. One a guy on the show, Stephen Smith, who we know, done shows with him, he said, "I only have one thing to say to you." And I was like, "Oh, what?" And he goes, "You would keep Lord of the Rings over Star Wars?" And I was like, wow. I mean, yeah.
I don't know. It's you got to think, like, Stephen Smith, he grew up with Star Wars.
Like
when
Star
it came,
Wars.
So it's a lot closer to him. Not that it's not super close to us, but it's a lot closer to his heart, I think, than to us. And then, like, Lord of the Rings was our generation. That being said, it's like an impossible question to answer.
It really is.
Like,
I mean,
it's unfair.
It's an unfair
question
asked
that question
to have to answer. So you sent me a text today. You got attacked again.
Yeah.
When mowing.
Well, I was going to say, you always know how to cheer me up, because I've been in such a terrible mood. I was mowing my yard. I got attacked again. I got 5 stings today. So I finally just gave up, and I was having technical issues here with the podcast stuff, and then you dropped this nerd explosion on me. I don't know.
I'm glad I could. Nobody makes you laugh quite like I do.
I guess so.
So, we're going to get to all of our fun stuff on this episode after a word from some of our sponsors.
Yeah, all right.
It's summertime. Join us in the romantic island of Kalikari in Encore Theatrical's hit summer show, Mamma Mia. This show is full of energy and sure to get you dancing. Mamma Mia is presented through special arrangement with Musical Theater International. Performances are July 5th through the 7th. Friday and Saturday start at 8 p.m. and Sunday starts at 2 p.m. The show will be held in the James D. Swan Performing Arts Center in Jefferson County High School in Dandridge, Tennessee. You can reserve your tickets by calling 423-318-8331. For more information, you can like Encore Theatrical on Facebook or check them out at www.etcplays.org. We hope to see you there, where it's not just theater, it's encore.
Here we are talking about Stranger Things once again, and it makes me think about Eleven. You know, if Eleven lived in Morristown, she would probably want to visit our friend Zach at Advertising Expressions, because Zach could make a shirt for her that says "I heart Eggos" or something like that. But you can get a shirt like that too if you want, or you can get it with anything you want on it, because Zach can create any sort of image or design or what have you on any sort of thing. Shirts, bags, hats, anything you can think of. You can contact Zach at 423-586-3270. You can visit him at 2103 Morningside Drive here in Morristown, Tennessee, or go to his website, www.advertising-expressions.com. Tell him 30 and Nerdy sent you. He'll get you taken care of. And we're back. And you know what, Tyler? I am so anxious for you to talk nerdy to me.
Absolutely, I will. Came up with a word for this week's episode: nerddom.
Uh-huh.
Kind of like, like in all of the kingdom.
Uh-huh.
Well, we would say never in the history of nerddom or anything like that. Yeah. Nerddom's like the all-encompassing world, history, everything that is nerd is in the nerddom.
And maybe it's like an umbrella term for like Lord of the Rings nerddom.
Yes.
Star Wars nerddom.
Yes.
Like fandom.
Yes. For instance, if I use an example, I would say, never in the history of nerddom has anyone truly embodied a character like RDJ as Iron Man.
True dat.
So, that's your nerd word for the week. Use it in a sentence, use it in a conversation, and see how people react to it. And tell them where you heard it.
Yeah. And if they give you a weird look like, this person is a crazy person and I don't want to talk to him anymore, don't tell them that you heard it from us.
Yes, yes. Tell them you heard it from, like, somebody else or something.
Your great aunt
Tilly.
Yeah. So, I think it's time to return to our infamous segment,
What You Watching?
And once again, we are not on our A game. We don't have any recommendations for something for you to watch. It's been a long week. Tyler here's been in his dress rehearsals for his big show. I've been out of town to Memphis. So once again, we're just going to offer some suggestions of some podcasts that you may like. I'll start with one of my favorite podcasts. It's called Fat Man Beyond. It used to be called Fat Man on Batman. It's a show hosted by Kevin Smith, and it's in a bar in L.A. called the Scum and Villainy Cantina, and it's all Star Wars themed, and they get together, once a week or so, depending on what Kevin Smith's schedule is like. And they just, kind of like we do, they talk about recent news in the nerd world. They take questions. They do a lot of like scenarios of like, who would you choose to play this character in this movie if it were ever a thing? Stuff like that. Really fun stuff. So if you're a big nerd like us, check out Fat Man Beyond with Kevin Smith. Lots of great stuff on there. I look forward to it every week.
Yeah. This week obviously I've been watching Stranger Things 2. We both have to get ready for this episode. So, and between Tech Week and the show, I've not really had any time to watch anything else. But I have started listening to another DC-based podcast, and I understand that sounds biased, but it's called the Suicide Squadcast.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's all about the DC universe, and let me tell you, they tear it apart. I mean, they're DC fans, and they're not happy. So, give it a listen. They're they're two guys like us. Mm-hmm. Sounds pretty cool. I think they've done 2 or 3 episodes lately, just leading into this 3 different universes that DC's starting on, and it's
kind of a mess right now.
It's a wow moment. Yeah. So, give them a listen. Suicide Squadcast.
And I promise that next week we will have something to watch for you.
Yes, we will.
We will definitely find something to recommend to you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I think with that, it's about time
for the news.
So there's not a whole lot of interesting stuff going on this
No.
week. One big headline that we saw was Michael B. Jordan is
Yes.
apparently in talks to be in the new Matrix movie
Yeah, we don't know if it's a trilogy,
reboot.
a reboot, or what.
don't
I
know.
mean, everybody's just dying to get another Matrix movie.
I mean,
I
some-
probably, in all honesty, I could have just had that one.
I think so too.
The first one was
Some
good.
people probably we're sarcastic about it, but some people probably
Yeah.
really would
Are
be
really
really
excited.
excited about it. Like I like the Matrix, okay, but some people are
Yeah.
yeah.
Die hard
Major
fans of the Matrix.
fans,
And
for
I
sure.
mean, if it were a reboot of the Neo storyline, I'd be a little upset because I'd be like, it's really not that old.
Yeah.
You really
20
want to
years or
reboot something this soon?
Yeah.
So hopefully it's like a different area.
Continuation.
Yeah, like a continuation, hopefully. Maybe it's Fishburne's son. Who'd he play? Morpheus.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Morpheus' son.
That'd be interesting.
It'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Also, some sad news for the X-Men universe.
Oh no.
In the past, I think it was 2 weeks, 44% of movie theaters across our country have pulled Dark Phoenix from theaters.
44%.
44% due to
Ouch.
them losing money. Because obviously they have to pay
Yeah.
the networks. And if nobody's sitting in the seats, then they're just losing money on this movie sitting in their theater.
Do you remember what the crowd was like when we saw it?
It was light. I mean, it wasn't like, Avengers, but
Mm-hmm.
it definitely wasn't like that night in Batman
we
versus
saw it-
Superman.
Oh yeah,
Man, we were the only two
ones.
in the theater.
Yeah, I can't remember.
we saw it opening weekend.
Didn't we? Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
Like Saturday
Yeah.
of opening weekend.
That's a shame, man. It really
And
sucks
I
that they
hate
go
that it
out
went
like
out that way. But in my honest opinion, if I knew you're going out, if you know that the Disney merger is going to happen before you even release your movie and while you're still in production, I'd give the fans what they want.
Yeah.
I would have given them Sinister. I would have had it like a big last stand, like Death of the X-Men,
Yeah.
because okay, this is the last X-Men movie. We might as
Yeah.
well kill them off. Like this is, to save the world, they sacrificed themselves. But they gave us a recycled story. And the problem is the director was a scriptwriter and producer on The Last Stand. So this was his second opportunity to do the Dark Phoenix storyline. And he failed again.
ouch.
So, yeah, 44% of
That's a
the
lot.
country pulling the movie out of their theaters. That's sad.
Yeah,
And it really stinks for the legacy of the X-Men.
sure.
But your homeboys at MCU, I'm sure, in a few years, they'll make us forget this dark day.
They'll do it right for sure. I think
They will. And speaking of the MCU, Kevin Feige had an interview saying that they will be bringing Deadpool pretty soon into the MCU. Sooner
Great
than most of the
success.
other. Yes, and he is the only person coming from Fox they're keeping. Ryan Reynolds they're not going to
Oh, yeah.
recast.
Well, he's too perfect.
Yeah, he's too perfect, but they're going to make him a PG-13 version.
Mm.
Diehard Deadpool fans, the people that we've loved Deadpool since they finally got him right with Ryan Reynolds in these past two movies, that sounds bad, but there's some comedy gold there, I think. Because, he's the fourth wall breaker, so he will know that he's not the original. Like, he'll know he's different.
Yeah.
There's
Sure.
some fun to be had there. They can
And
do some stuff.
If you look back to, I guess it was the first Deadpool movie.
Yes.
There was a moment where there was a shot of the toy of the Deadpool
From
from the really
Origins.
bad
Yeah.
Wolverine version, and he kind of made a joke about that. So I think it'd be reasonable that.
I mean, he even in the sequel goes and kills Ryan Reynolds in different,
Oh, that's
in
right. I
different
forgot
moments
about
of
that.
history. So
Yeah.
it's like he's all knowing, so he'll know that he can't say
Yeah.
these words. He'll know that he's Disney now. So there's some comedy genius
for
there.
sure. I mean, it'll be different
Yeah.
than the others, but
It'll still be Deadpool.
Different doesn't mean bad, though.
Yeah.
So I think we
As
need
long
to
as they
just give it
don't
a
bring
chance.
back zombie Deadpool,
Yeah.
then we're fine.
Now, I never saw they re-released Deadpool 2 with the title
PG-13.
Once Upon a Deadpool,
Yeah.
and it was PG-13. And I have not seen that, but I heard that it really
Yeah.
was just as good.
It was just as good, just
So.
not rated R.
a little
So
more tame.
yeah.
Sure.
Also, speaking of Disney, again,
Yeah.
Melissa McCarthy, hilarious, love her, is in talks of playing Ursula
Mhm.
in the
Little Mermaid live action.
Yes, and the live action of Little Mermaid, because we need that.
Yeah, well, why
Rebooting
not?
of an original
If
story.
there's a market for it, why not?
Sure. I would have, we shared it on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
And it's gotten a lot of, people putting in their opinion. And there's a couple of really cool opinions in there, use a guy.
Yeah.
To add
Have Ursula play in drag.
Yeah. And that's not a bad idea.
No, I can see it.
I could definitely see that. But Melissa McCarthy does good stuff. So.
But I don't, even though the live action Disney remakes are based on cartoons, I feel like they'll go for a more realistic approach.
I hope. Well, change it some. Go
Yeah,
for a
so
realistic approach.
I can see Melissa McCarthy, but at the same time, I would really enjoy having an Ursula in drag. You know, I don't know. I don't know that it'll happen, but Disney's pretty progressive.
They are getting
so
more
at the
and more
same
progressive
time,
also.
I could see them being like, "Yeah, we're going to go with this." So I'll be happy either way.
I know that for the past few years, Lindsay Lohan's been vying for that Ariel spot.
Oh,
I was
no.
like, as long as they don't cast her, it'll be interesting to see the cast start coming out.
I don't know a lot about Lindsay Lohan except she's had all sorts of issues throughout her life. Bless her heart. But I remember that she was on Saturday Night Live a few years ago, and I saw it, and I thought it was probably the worst thing I'd ever seen. I was really uncomfortable and embarrassed for her.
Oh, she was messed up.
Yeah,
too. You can tell she's messed up. So that's about all we have for this week. That's your weekly nerd news. All right, guys, and now we are to what you came to hear, and we are going to break it down on Stranger Things Season 2.
That's right. I'm really excited to talk about Stranger Things 2. I had a great time watching Stranger Things 1 and doing the show on that. And, if you remember, I had said it was kind of like watching it for the first time because I didn't remember any of it.
Yeah.
Same thing with Season 2 because when Season 2 came out, it was in the fall of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter was born in September. So I was I was new dad with a newborn baby while I was watching that show.
Yeah.
So I really didn't remember any of it at all. So again, like watching it for the first time, and I loved it just as much as Season 1. And I do want to mention, I would be remiss if I did not say, I mentioned my friend Glenn Ellen, who had a small role in Season 1.
Yes.
She's also a really talented musician, guys, so you should look her up. Her name's Glenn Ellen Anderson. Check out some of her music. She does great stuff. I just wanted to make sure to plug that. But yeah, Season 2, Stranger Things. If you remember at the end of Season 1, they find Will, they rescue him. Everything seems to be okay and hunky-dory until, the last scene of the season, Will goes to the bathroom. He's standing there in the mirror. He has, a little flash of the upside down.
Yes.
And then the next thing we know, he's throwing up slugs in the sink there.
Yes.
And then that's where they leave us.
Yeah.
And so, much like, the Stranger Things writers like to do, the Duffer Brothers, they like to leave us with these little cliffhangers. You
Little hooks.
think everything is good, and there's one little thing that leaves that door open. Oh, there could be something more going on. So, we start out Season 2. It's 1 year later, and I think the first thing that we see is a van driving down the road, right? Mm-hmm. And there's this group of kids in the van, and we see that one of them has special powers.
Yes.
And
she is one of the children.
Yes, and she has a tattoo, 008.
She's number 8.
So she can do these weird Jedi mind trick type things. She makes people see things that aren't really there. Illusions, right?
Yes.
Isn't there a superhero that does that named Mirage from the Marvel Universe?
There is.
So you mean it's been done before and somebody's reusing an old idea? A show that you love?
Jeez Louise.
Much like
I'm sure there's
complain
a DC
about
character
Disney.
who does it too.
Okay, I just wanted to point it out. So she can do this thing where she makes the guy that's driving the police
Cop
cruiser.
car,
yeah. He thinks that the tunnel that they're going through is falling down, but it's really not, because the other guy gets out and is yelling at him. And I'm like, why are you yelling at this guy, man?
Yeah.
He just saved your life. And then we see
that it was
nothing
all
even
fake.
happened.
Yes.
Yeah, so crazy.
And she's got the nosebleed too.
Yep. So definitely a connection to 11 there. So let's talk about where all of our heroes are now a year later. Dustin, I think he's the first note that I have here. He's looking for coins in his house, I guess.
Yeah.
His mom is off work from Litchfield Prison because you might recognize her from Orange is the New Black. So Netflix likes to keep it in the family. They like to have everybody stay on all the Netflix shows. So he's looking for coins and stuff to go to the arcade. We see over at Will's house, Mike's house.
Yeah.
He busts up Nancy's piggy bank. Nancy's really upset about losing her $1.73 or whatever it was.
I'll pay you back.
Yeah. Winona Ryder, Joyce, she's a little overprotective of her son Will, rightfully so, right? Dropping him off at the arcade, and she's like, okay, if you feel weird about anything, you call me. You be right out here at 8 o'clock or whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
You know, I can't say I blame her.
Well, I mean, after the year they had.
Yeah. And so they're all meeting up at the arcade like kids in the 80s would do, right?
And the arcade looks so cool.
Dude,
I mean, it was very nostalgic.
Yeah, like, arcades are definitely an 80s thing. I'm sure we both played in arcades and stuff, but not like in the 80s, you know?
No.
They're not as common in our childhood.
No, they're not as common. It was more of like a side factor at something else you were at. Like if you were in Pigeon Forge, you know, hey, there's an arcade here.
Sure.
Or if you were at the skating rink Twilight, oh, there's 4 or 5 arcade games too.
And growing up and going to Easttown Mall, they had a big arcade there
Yeah.
across from the movie theater. And that, I mean, like most things in that mall, it's gone. But arcades are rare now.
They are.
It's got to be a big touristy place where there's already a lot of people, you know. But the kids are playing Dragon's Lair. Have you ever played that game?
I have. It was there when I was a kid, and Twilight Skating Rink was like the place to go as a kid. They had Dragon's Lair.
Yeah.
And it didn't last long. It was gone pretty quickly and replaced with, Lord, I'm pretty sure it was Star Wars Pinball.
Oh,
wow. They brought in. And no, Indiana Jones Pinball. It was Indiana Jones Pinball. But yeah, I'd never played Dig Dug either.
Now, I played that on the computer before, but I'd never played Dragon's Lair ever. I've heard a lot about it here. It's really difficult. People get really frustrated with it, but I would really like to play it.
Dustin's frustrated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's cussing that, arcade console out. But I was watching there's another little series on Netflix called Beyond Stranger Things, and it's where the cast and the writers and everybody get together and they just talk about stuff. And they talk about the parallels of, Dragon's Lair, you're trying to rescue the princess, and Lucas and Dustin are arguing about, who gets the princess. And then we meet Max a little bit later on, and there's a little triangle there. What's she so mad about?
She's angry.
She is. Max?
I mean,
we find out later.
Yeah,
she
you
comes
find
from,
out later.
Yeah. So, they have a little, love triangle there, and so those are parallels, and I never caught that.
Yeah.
Until they brought it up. So, thought that was pretty cool. So those are the kids where they're at right now. And
Mike is somewhat still depressed, reeling from the loss of 11.
Yeah, he's missing 11.
And like there's that scene where he's just sitting there on the walkie-talkie. 11, still 11. A year later,
383 days or something like that.
He's still just like he's out there. He's hanging out with them.
Yeah,
but you can just see it on his face that he's not there. He's sad.
Yeah. The first big major thing to happen, though, is Will sort of has another one of those episodes where he sees himself in the upside down again, and he doesn't know if it's like a dream or is he really there or what. He walks outside the arcade and he can see. Is this the first time he sees the shadow monster in the distance?
Like a fraction of it. Kind of like it's just standing there.
Yeah.
The shadow monster.
And then he sort of just snaps out of it and probably doesn't really think much about it. So that's it for the kids at this point. So let's talk about some of our other heroes. We have Nancy and Steve. Mm-hmm. They're hanging out in Steve's car. They've been dating this whole time. You can tell they've been together for a while because they're a lot more comfortable with one another. Mm-hmm. Nancy's a lot less awkward, and they're joking around a little bit more because they're past that awkward stage. Steve is showing her like an essay that he wrote, and she's trying to kind of critique it for him.
Yeah, he's trying to get into college.
I put a note. Steve is a bad writer because he wasn't in Mr. Davis's class. So Yeah, that's them. And who else? Who else are we missing? The adults. So
Yeah.
Hopper, which we'll get to him in a minute. Hopper is living out in a cabin, taking care of 11, which
Yeah.
we don't find out till the end of the episode. And Joyce. Both of us love Joyce.
Yes.
She's got a new man in her life. It's Sean Astin. I'm so excited
love-
to see Sean Astin straight from Mount Doom and the Shire to making out in a closet with
In
Winona
Hawkins,
Ryder.
Indiana.
You know what? Go for it.
Well, and he was such an icon in the 80s as it is, with the Goonies and Rudy and all that. So, I mean, why not add him to the cast? Because
Yeah.
he adds that 80s feel. He just really embodies the 80s. So, I loved that they had him. I love Bob Newby. And I love
too.
that he's with Joyce.
Me too. Jonathan, Will's brother, it's also like Joyce, very protective of Will. There's this scene where they're going to have movie night at home with Bob and Joyce, and Jonathan gets all these movies, and I noticed that every single one of those tapes were PG movies.
Yes.
Man, Will's a 13-year-old kid. He doesn't want to watch PG movies, okay? And then right after that, he goes off about how everybody's babying him, and
Yeah.
they won't let him breathe and all that.
And everybody looks at him like a freak.
Yeah.
And I love what his brother Jonathan says to him. He's like, well, you are a freak, but so am I.
Yeah.
Do you really want to be normal?
Why does nobody like Jonathan? I think he's cool. He
It's-
likes.
Well, that's the thing is like when he's around people, there's almost he puts up this wall, this quiet,
Yeah.
silent wall, and I think in season 1, Nancy kind of called it out, like you put up this wall and this, you act like you're better than the common rabble, walking around being artistic and quiet. And
Yeah,
suffering
they think he's
alone and all that,
pretentious
and
and all that.
pretentious, and she's like, that's pretentious
Well,
to do that.
I think he's a good guy. He likes
is.
the Clash, so I think he's
Oh
cool.
yeah, absolutely.
And they have their movie night, or whatever. And I put a note here that I can't tell if Joyce is actually interested in Bob or not.
Or is she interested in the safety?
Yeah, he's comfortable,
Of Bob.
right? He's just not. He's just Bob, right?
Yeah, he's just Bob.
just
he
Bob.
they went to school together, and he was the nerd who was picked on,
Yeah.
and she was, I guess, the cheerleader, popular girl.
Mm-hmm.
And he even says, "I get to date Joyce Byers."
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Bob's a great guy.
I do.
Man.
He's
Ladies,
great.
find yourself a Bob.
Yes.
For sure. And so at the very end of the episode, the best moment, I think, Hopper walks in and you can tell he's talking to somebody. You don't know if he's got a lady in there or what. Well, he sort of does.
Yeah.
But not in that way. You walk in and there's 11 sitting
There
there.
she
And
is.
I love the Hopper
this
11 relationship.
And it's like this moment that hits you. You're just like, wait, what?
Yeah. Because we thought she was
Yeah, because dead. We thought she was dead. So you're just like, explain, please. And you're like, oh, okay, well, we will explain. That's what season 2 is about to do to you. But and it's a great setup because it not only introduces, and we also get to meet Max's brother,
Billy.
Billy, the very, very
Does he show up in
toxic
episode 1?
masculinity.
Well,
It's-
we'll talk.
yeah.
We'll talk more about him in a minute.
Yeah.
But that's really it for episode 1.
Establishing stuff like that.
Right. Chapter 2: Trick or Treat, Freak. That's a mean title.
Halloween.
So it picks up sort of where season 1 left off, and this is 11's part of the story. How she ended up where she is. She's on the run. She makes her way out of the Upside Down, and all these government people are looking for her. And they tell all the people who knew her, "Oh, she's like a Russian spy or something
she's
like
dangerous.
that." So they'll keep away from her. So she has to stay hidden and stay on the run and everything. And of course, we know she meets up with Hopper, and Hopper takes her in and takes care of her. And I think that's definitely deeply rooted in the fact that he lost his daughter,
his kid and his
he-
wife divorced him. And
Right.
He, it's perfect. And that scene where he takes her to the cabin to clean it up, and he plays Jim Croce.
Yeah.
And he's just dancing around. You can see a completely different side of Hopper
Yeah.
while they're cleaning the cabin.
Hopper's a great dad.
He really is.
a great dad. I actually learned a lot from him because
Yeah.
he broke a promise to her or whatever, and she's mad. And she's staying in her room, and he's like, okay, I'm going to eat all this candy by myself.
all
So
by myself.
when Emma's older and she gets hateful and sassy with me, and she's mad at me for something I've done, I'm going to be like, oh, I'm just going to sit out here and eat all this candy. So
I'm going to get fat alone.
But I love that relationship between Hopper and Eleven because they're both so strong-willed, and they have
Yeah.
some serious arguments.
Yeah.
And every time it ends with Eleven running in her room and like force slamming the door
Yeah.
shut. I love that. One really important thing about their relationship is they talk about promises. Every time he says "I promise," that's like a sacred, solemn thing to Eleven. Friends don't lie, right?
Yeah. Friends,
And of course,
don't lie.
that's what brings on some of the conflict in their relationship because he's not lying just to
He's
tell her
just-
lies. He's trying to protect her, right?
He's gonna. I mean, he's the sheriff of the town. He's also. We find out, that he's been kind of playing ball with the group at Hawkins Lab,
yeah.
and they're not bad guys per se anymore. It's Paul Reiser took over as the head scientist, and he's the good guy scientist at Hawkins Lab, and again an '80s icon, Paul Reiser. He had a show, and he was also in the Alien sequel, Aliens. But, you learn that he's single-handedly trying to keep Hawkins going. And reeling from what happened last year, and, trying to keep it quiet, and trying to make sure everything's safe.
Right. So he's not a bad dude at all.
No, he's not.
I wrote something down here for us that we need to talk about. We have got to have Millie Bobby Brown, 11. We've got to have her in the MCU as something. I don't know what. I don't know when. But
She's
it's got to
jobs,
happen.
man.
Man, that kid, all of those kids. I mean, maybe when she's older she can play like Psylocke or something, maybe. I don't know. Psylocke may be too similar to 11. I don't know. But I want her to do. I would be happy for any of those kids to be in the MCU.
Sadie could be Jean.
Who's Sadie? Max?
Max.
Yeah?
She'd be a good
Sure.
Jean.
They're still a little young, but
Well, I
maybe
mean, they're all very young.
maybe by the time that MCU gets rolling with X-Men and stuff like that, maybe there's a place for some of them.
She could be. Lord, I don't know who she'd be good as.
Psylocke was just the first thing that came to mind. So, all right. So it's Halloween in this episode, and the kids are all getting ready for Halloween,
And
and
they're dressed up as a Ghostbuster.
yeah, and I got jealous because if you remember from way back to episode 1 of our show, my mother dressed me as a tree for Halloween. It was great.
We still need to get that picture.
I'm working on it. I can't find it. But hey,
Maybe
it's
you
out there
burned it
somewhere.
one day.
I could have. I don't know. I was pretty mad about it. I was pretty sore for a long time. So they're all having fun on Halloween, and of course, Will has his encounter with the. He sees another little
Sees the shadow
glimpse
thing
of the
again
shadow
while they're
monster.
trick or treating.
Yeah, and so we mentioned earlier Billy. Billy's like the new human antagonist on the show, and my first thing is that I wrote about him is this Billy dude is a psycho. Dude's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
What are you so mad about? What's
Full on psychopath.
calm down there, hair?
Yeah.
You know,
Calm it down here.
goodness.
Yeah, he was the Red Power Ranger
He was, and
in
was
that
a
terrible reboot of Mighty Morphin Power
Oh
Rangers.
man! They're probably going to do another one.
No,
I read
gosh,
that somewhere.
Just stop.
Yeah. So he's a jerk. I put again. I hate Billy, so I really did not like that guy, which means he's doing a good job. I put some of the extras at the party are really bad dancers. I guess the high school kids had a
They're
big Halloween
extras, yeah.
party, and
They
Nancy
had a
got all
big-
drunk, and there's these extras in the background, and they're like, they're trying to dance, and it looks so
you-
awkward.
Tell who they're dressed as?
No,
Steve and I couldn't
I don't
either.
think are they dressed up?
They're dressed up. Like, I want to say that Steve is Jack Nicholson, by the looks of it.
I don't know. The middle school kids are no fun because Will and all them dress up as Ghostbusters and walk into
They're
school.
the only people
And
dressed.
there's no one else.
Well, and that was a nightmare. I mean, the days that it wasn't ridiculous and you could dress up and go to school on Halloween when we were kids. Nowadays you can't do that.
Those kids are lame, man.
But that was always a fear of mine when I was in elementary school. Like, okay, they're letting you dress up. School's on Halloween, and I was like, oh my god, what if I'm the
that
only?
was never a problem
what if I'm
for
the
me.
only person
We
dressed
all
up?
always did it. Back to Bob and Joyce. I have Bob likes Kenny Rogers. He's a keeper.
I love Kenny Rogers.
Yeah. Hopper messed up and forgot his daddy date night with 11, so she's not happy about that because he promised.
He did promise.
And
well, he was investigating some poisoned pumpkins.
Yeah. Another thing that's going on here is that Mad Max, the girl that beat all their scores on the arcade games, we said earlier, Dustin and Lucas are kind of fighting over a little bit, and they're all interested in inviting her to join their party. And Mike doesn't like it too much when everybody wants to bring a girl into the party. I guess he forgot how it was when he was
how
like,
that was.
"Hey guys, here's 11. She's going to be part of the group now," and everyone was like, "I'm not so sure about it." And
he's being a jerk to her.
Yeah, so I put it really sucks to be Will. I don't know why. Something must have happened to Will. I guess the mean kids were picking on him.
Oh, yeah,
he had
Happy
another
Halloween freak.
He had another encounter in the Upside Down.
If you notice, though, each encounter he's having, it's like the shadow monster's getting closer to him.
Yeah.
Like first he was in the distance, and then he was a little closer, and now it's like right there and trying to get to him before Mike kind of shakes him out of it, out of the vision.
So it really does suck to be Will. Everything happens to this kid, man.
Poor kid. Maybe it's his haircut.
After the big high school party, Jonathan came, even though nobody invited him and nobody likes him. He came. I think he's trying to be protective of Nancy, wouldn't you say? And we saw a lot in season 1 of they clearly like each other and they're awkward and stuff like that. But Nancy gets like wrecked drunk, and he's a gentleman. I mean, he takes care of her.
And Steve even says, "You take care of her."
Yeah,
because Steve's trying to be the boyfriend, and she's just, it's all crap. We're acting like we love each other, and he's like, wait, acting?
Poor Steve.
I know, poor Steve. And he leaves, and he looks at Jonathan and says, you take care of her. Yeah. And he does, he takes her home.
Ladies, find yourself a fellow like Jonathan. He's a solid dude.
If you can't get a Bob, get a Jonathan.
Exactly. So, that's all I got to say about that. Well, I think one of my favorite parts of the season is at the end of this episode. Dustin's coming home from Halloween shenanigans, and he hears something rattling around in his trash can, and he's got his Ghostbusters gun, and he holds it up. I'm like, Dustin, what are you planning to do
with the vacuum cleaner?
What are you planning to do with your plastic gun there? Yeah. So he opens up the trash can, and it ends with "Holy," and it stops.
Episode done. Again, Duffer Brothers hooking you line and sinker. Yeah. It's brilliant.
Because you got to find out what's in the trash can. And then that takes us on to Chapter 3, the Pollywog. Starts out with Dustin, of course. Man, Dustin is slick, boy. He is so smooth. Like, he's able to sweet-talk his mom, and she thinks something's wrong. He's like, no, it's cool. And
I built it to look real.
Yeah. And there's a part where he's talking to the librarian. He wants to get a bunch of books about little lizards and stuff because he finds the little
Pollywog
little thing in the trash can, and he's trying to find out about it. He thinks maybe he's discovered this new species, and the librarian's like, "Oh no, you have 5 books out, and that's the limit." And he somehow gets away with it, and he gets 5 more. So he is slick, son. He decides to make this little crazy-looking slug monster. You should know, man. You were there for season 1. You should know better than to pick up these strange little creatures and try to make them a pet. And he even takes the thing to school. What's he thinking?
I know. Anytime something comes up, their mentality is always like, talk to the party.
Yeah.
Bring the party
That's
in on
true.
it. And plus, they're all dying for knowledge nerds. They're science geeks. And so he just knew that the party would know what to do with this new creature he found.
We get a really, really good scene where Bob is trying to connect with Will. They're in the car, and Will's mentioning the fact that he's having these nightmares and everything where he's seeing that shadow monster, and Bob talks to him about the nightmares he had and how he just stood up to his nightmares and he said, "Go away, go away." So we'll see how that advice works out later.
Well, and about this scene, there's somewhat of an It backstory there. Like, Bob's talking about this clown that people had nightmares about.
Mr. Waldo or something like that.
Yeah, and he something was like, because he's from this, he's not from Hawk, he was living somewhere else and Mr. Bilko or something like that, and it just felt very It, very like the movie It, and Bob's basically trying to be this parental figure, telling him to just stand up to it, man. Tell it to go away, I said. I told him to go away, and I never saw the clown again. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, I wish that worked, because I've been trying to tell clowns to go away for years.
Oh, yeah. We move on to seeing more Hopper and Eleven, which I'm definitely okay with. We talked earlier about he was playing Jim Croce for her while they're getting her cabin set up, and so he's teaching her good music, and he teaches her Morse code so they can communicate without speaking.
Teaches her how to make traps.
He talks about all the rules she needs to follow, and we see her break every single one of them.
Yep.
Moving back to Joyce, she finds out that she just has that instinct. She knows something's going on with Will, so she's looking at the camera. They had the video camera for Halloween, and she's able to stop it at the right moment and see the outline of the shadow monster up in the background, and she sees a picture that Will drew of it, and she's like, okay, here we go again. Something's going on.
Can we just talk about the size of that video camera?
Lord have
Good
mercy.
Lord, it was on his shoulder and everything.
1984, man. Another thing we should have mentioned a minute ago, Eleven's when she's breaking these rules because she wants to go see Mike, and she gets to school where she knows he'll be, but we see Max is in there, and she's on her skateboard rolling around Will, and Eleven's like, oh no, this girl's moving in on my man. So she knocks Max right off of that.
She does a little head tilt and knocks her off with the force power.
Yeah. And then, of course, the episode ends. Another great cliffhanger. Will is trying to stand up to the monster, go away, and it, I don't even know how to describe it. It possesses him. Yeah, it
enters
his body. And I'm like, yeah, thanks for all your great advice, Bob. Thanks for nothing, Bob.
It just pissed it off even more.
That takes us to Chapter 4, Will the Wise. I don't really have a lot on this one. It starts out, we saw Will getting possessed by the shadow monster, and I put, as my grandma would say, Will is having a spell here. He's freaking out and twitching, and this is obviously an uncomfortable thing. So Joyce again knows that something's going on. Will is terrified. I put this is a great scene with Joyce and Will. Terrific acting. I really believe that Will is terrified
and possessed.
All the things he's seen. Yeah,
seizuring
and Joyce is desperate to help her son
in his face.
Could you imagine how helpless she must feel though, because they don't know what's going on, So anyway,
and all this happened, because he got distracted from. They were trying to find. I think Dustin named it Dart, named the Pollywog Dart.
Yes, he did.
And they were trying to chase it around the school, and Will got distracted by the Upside Down.
Right.
And that's what brought him into the field to get possessed. And
that's right.
Dart's growing quick.
Yeah.
He's starting to grow quick.
So they're getting to the point where they're kind of thinking there's probably something going on with Dart that is not good, right?
Yeah, because I think it was Will that reacted to the sound he made.
Mm-hmm.
Because he had heard it before in the Upside Down. And, ironically, he pukes up a slug at the end of last year, and Dart shows up not too long after that.
Yeah.
Did I just throw Dart up?
Well, so they kind of come to the conclusion, maybe Dart's from the Upside Down, and then he goes, Dustin goes home where Dart's supposed to be in the turtle tank.
Yeah.
And he's busted it all up, and he has eaten poor Muse the cat. Muse is old news, man.
Yeah.
He or she is done. Gone with the wind.
Gone with the wind. That's all right, meow.
Dart is like a baby Demogorgon or something like that.
Yes.
So maybe it wasn't such a good idea to be in Hawkins and to find a little monster and try to keep it as a pet. Lesson learned. Noted, right? And that's really about it. There's some stuff with 11, she goes to see Mama.
Yeah.
And her poor mom is in this catatonic state. She's in this trance. Breathe. Rainbow. 450.
Yeah,
to the right.
She's saying it all over. She's reliving.
Nobody knows what any of that stuff means. Can you explain the thing again to me about when 11 is floating in the water?
It's she's able to let go of all of her inhibitions basically and enter this. The all black area where she's walking in water
Mhm.
isn't the upside down. It's like a hallway.
Sure.
The upside down is one door she's entered before.
Yeah.
The upside down is just like they said in season 1, the Shadowverse, the Nether realm.
So, are there potentially other dimensions
Yes, I
that
think
she
there
can
are
get to?
potentially other dimensions. It's kind of like, we mentioned the Matrix earlier. When Neo's walking down that hallway and he's like, "You'll know the door when you see it."
Yeah.
And different doors in that hallway takes them to different locations of the Matrix. Well, it's kind of like that. Like, she's in the, when she was with Brenner, she was in that hallway with all black, that purgatory-esque area, trying to spy on the Russians.
Yeah.
And that's how she saw the Demogorgon. She contacted the Upside Down. So that's her. She's trying to find her mom in that area because she's basically died. I guess realized that that's where she's stuck.
Mm-hmm.
She's also like 11. They messed with her in a lab and all that, and using LSD, and she's stuck in this hallway, basically in this purgatory in her mind. And 11 goes to that area to find her.
Right. Thank you, because some of the stuff with 11 and how her powers work, I've never really been too clear on. The episode, of course, ends. Hopper, the great detective that he is, he's found these tunnels because they figured out. I guess it was Bob that figured out. Will was drawing all these pictures of these vines, and Joyce was able to put them all together, and she put them up on the walls and everything, and they figured out, it's like a map, and it's leading to something. And so Hopper discovers there's
in trouble.
Tunnels underneath
Hawkins.
and he gets trapped down there, and that's how we end the episode.
And we end the episode with him being like taken over by the vines.
Right.
Very, very like Harry Potter whenever they're going after
Devil's
the
Snare.
Yes,
man.
Devil's Snare.
Yeah. And then we're in Chapter 5, Dig Dug. We've sort of blended Chapter 4 and 5 together, I think, a little bit here, but that's okay. So Bob comes to the house to look at all the pictures that Will's put up. Why is it that every time Will has an episode, Joyce's house gets destroyed? Have you noticed this?
The Christmas lights,
the
wall,
all that.
And now there's roots all over the place. And
Yeah.
Like Bob walks in with these puzzle games trying to make Will feel better. And there's just funny scene where he's like, huh?
Yeah.
Just, is this like an art project? So basically Bob, and as we all know, Sean Astin played Mike in The Goonies.
Yeah.
And it was all about finding the pirate treasure left over by One Eye Willie. And they even add this little Easter egg line where he's like, what's at the X? Treasure?
Yeah.
And just a little fun little Goonies plug
For sure.
line. And he's who figures it out. He's like, these are vines, these are roots, these are tunnels. They're not going in water, they're going around water. This is Hawkins. I know where this is.
Yeah.
And Will's like, that's where Hopper is.
Yeah, and then they go to rescue him,
Yes.
of course, and they, like, the people from the lab come, and they're going to torch these tunnels and all
Yes.
these vine stuff, and then we learn that because Will is possessed by the shadow monster, for some reason, there's a connection there, and anything that hurts the shadow monster hurts him as well.
Yes, I mean, he breaks out in this
Yeah.
scream and this seizure, and it's terrifying.
Really complicates
Great performance, too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this kid is...
They're all rock
of them.
stars,
I mean,
man.
they're
Every one of them.
fantastic. And then we're into Chapter 6, and this is The Spy. And a lot of this episode takes place at the lab.
Sure.
This is after, Will has collapsed, and they've tried to burn the vines, basically, and they're all getting checked out, and Hopper's getting this pressure washing bath. And you always see that in those biohazard type situations in movies. So basically what Paul Reiser's character, the doctor, has come up with is he's like, well, it's like a virus. It's a connection to it. You hurt the vines, you hurt these, you hurt Will. And Joyce is like, so what are we going to do? We don't know.
Yeah.
And she's
Tough
like,
spot to
no.
be in.
And she gives another killer performance. She's like, you're the best that there is to offer in this. You won't let us go anywhere else.
Well, it's
You're
not.
trying to tell me that.
Yeah.
You were trying to tell me for days it's in his head.
I totally understand like where her anguish and frustration is coming from, but it's not like there's a whole lot of experts on the Upside Down out there.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
11 would be the closest one
The
you
closest
get.
expert.
I put a note here. Who doesn't love Steve and Dustin? They're
Oh
off
my gosh.
hunting Demogorgons together. What a way to bond.
This is my favorite relationship.
I mean,
I'm
me too.
here for that relationship.
Yeah.
When they're walking on the train tracks, and Steve's trying to give him pointers about the girl.
Yeah, and it's kind of ironic that Steve is giving Dustin pointers on ladies because it's not really working out too great for him because his lady is off with another dude, and they've
Come up with this own plan of, throwing the labs under the bus. They've recorded conversations and they're taking it to
Murray,
who's a great character. That conspiracy theorist who's trying to find Barb, basically.
Yeah.
And so you've got them doing that, and Stephen and Dustin together, and he's giving him all these pointers, and he's like, "Okay, I'm going to tell you a secret about the hair, and if you tell anyone, I'll kill you."
the Farrah
It's the
Fawcett
Farrah
spray.
Fawcett hairspray. Not wet, damp.
Yeah.
When it's damp.
What I was going to say though was like, how's this advice working out for you, Steve?
Yeah.
Because his lady's off with another dude,
The
and
person she truly cares about.
they spent the evening together.
Yes.
As we see.
And that back and forth with Murray and Jonathan and is hilarious.
Yeah, it's a great scene.
Great scene.
I put here that I want to play as Steve in a Stranger Things video game. That scene where they're all like they're barricading the bus and they're getting ready
Yeah.
for the Demogorgons to come get him. Man, he had some slick moves there.
Yeah.
He's pretty good.
Sliding over like Bo or Luke Duke over the hood,
Yeah.
smashing these Demodogs, as Dustin calls them, with his nail bat. Steve's awesome.
Yeah, love Steve.
And that's just a really cool, like you said, video game moment. Just barricaded down, the Demodogs attack, and we find out that something draws them away from him, and what that is it's Will, because this entire time he's been acting like Will, but he's not Will. The Mind Flayer has totally taken over.
He kind of gets sassy with his mom,
and he can't recognize
he
some
can't remember
people. And that's when Mike goes, "Oh my gosh, he's a spy.
Yeah.
He's a spy. He's spying on us. He's tricking every one of us. They're coming for us."
Do you remember, like, they sent a bunch of the random lab people down in through the gate? And why were they going back down there?
They're trying to, they're trying to slow burn it, first of all, and they're trying to close it. They don't know how. But kind of like to save itself, they burn the gate, the original gate from season 1 that you see throughout season 2, just that one door. Well, to save itself, the doorway has started burying under Hawkins. So it's this long, huge riff, basically. And so they're trying to control it.
It sure
but
didn't
it's
work out.
developed its own ecosystem.
When unknown and unnamed dudes in hazmat suits walk into anything,
It doesn't end
it
well.
never ends well. Not once, not ever.
Like, if I was hazmat guy number 1 and the doctor said, "We need you to do this," I'd be like, "No,
Man,
I've seen these movies.
I'm 3 days from retirement.
I've got kids, man. No."
Yet another great cliffhanger when we see the Demogorgon's claw kind of coming up over the gate.
Yes, and Hopper's
Entering
on
the
the other
lab.
side with the doctor on the other side of the window, and just to black.
And unfortunately, we don't get to see what happens until after the next episode.
Yeah.
And the next episode, of course, is Chapter 7, The Lost Sister. 11 has sort of figured out the message that her mom was trying to... Her mom was... They gave her this shock therapy, so she lost all her memories, and she's just basically a vegetable sitting there,
Yeah.
other than those few words that she can mutter. And we find out that those are clues, because she wants 11 to find other kids
other
like
kids.
her. So she goes off to
Boston.
Chicago.
Sorry. Chicago.
Are we supposed to call 11 Jane now, or is 11 still acceptable? don't know.
11 is what everybody calls her. The only person who calls her Jane is, the aunt.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, Jane is her real name, but I mean, she's still 11. But the scenes in Chicago, her first time really seeing the big city.
Yeah.
And she,
I was really uncomfortable at first. I was like, 11 is all alone in the city, and the dad in me is really worried about her.
she's walking down this dirty street with all these homeless people,
and then
talking to
I
themselves.
remember that she's basically Jean Grey, and she can take, like, remember that dude said watch where you're going, kid, and she's like, mouth breather.
Mouth breather.
Yeah, love her. There's some crazy dude screaming, they're all dead. Like, is he supposed to be crazy, or did he take some really bad drugs, or what, or both? Man. I don't know. So she's in this rough part of town, and of course 11 runs into number
Collie's
8's Collie's group, and they look rough.
There's Axel with the mohawk.
Mm-hmm.
Loves knives, hates spiders.
And of course we see number 8, Collie, walk out, and they immediately, once they figure out who the other is, they have this warm embrace, and they automatically connect because they're the only ones who can truly relate to one another.
Yeah.
As far as we know, there may be others out there, but they're the only ones that we know of.
Yeah, I mean, technically, it's kind of led to believe that 11 was the last of the experiments. The others kind of got away, or
worse.
But 8 and 11 are meant to make you feel like they're the last two.
Right.
But you never know. I mean, there's more seasons.
After the two of them sort of connect and, we see their relationship start to develop, now we see her group of friends in sort of a lighter tone, a lighter environment. It's like, they're not so bad.
Them to people, yeah.
They're just outcast. Oh, but they're also murderers. They're like, we go around and we kill people who we think
they hunt down
it.
Hawkins Lab people and get their own, I guess, vigilante justice.
Yeah.
By killing them. And they actually recruit 11 to find one of them. And this guy's actually a pretty big actor. He's been in a few things. Big guy, bald guy. They track him down, and we hear him say something. And while, she's force choking him, and they're at his house, and they're threatening to kill him.
That's Ray.
Yeah, Ray. They're threatening to kill Ray. He says, "I can tell you where Brenner's at." And she says, "Papa's dead." And he goes, No, he's not. Mm-hmm. And that gives us that, oh my gosh.
So that could come back into play.
Yes.
Didn't you, what was she doing to that guy?
Force choking.
Oh, you mean like Star Wars?
Like Star Wars.
So you mean like they're recycling an old idea?
Yeah.
Kind of like...
I mean, they are. I mean, they're
does?
recycling everything.
Yeah. And, of course, 8... Even though I think she's a bad influence because they start robbing stores and then, 11...
They give her a clothes change.
They give her this weird, makeover and everything like that. But she also teaches 11 how to strengthen her powers by channeling her anger. And at first, when she's trying to, practice, all of her anger is about Hopper because Hopper lied about, she's like, my mama, where's my mama? And he says, well, she's gone.
Yeah.
From a certain point of view, he's telling the truth.
I mean, she is gone.
That's the thing that puts Hopper in a really bad position because do you tell her the truth? Is she old enough to understand? Can she handle that? Because she's already been through a lot.
Well, not only that, she was raised in a lab. Her social awkwardness is, even if she were like 25 years old, the way she was raised, she wouldn't be able to grasp like, okay, this is normal.
And I think she also understands like, bad things happen to people.
Yeah.
Because she's experienced it.
Lived
she's seen it. So, I don't know if you're Hopper, do you say, look, kid, I'm going to go ahead and tell you the truth and save you the grief.
She's out of her mind.
This is what's happened. But does he do that because he doesn't want her running off trying to find her and...
Save her.
Yeah. So, tough
he's doing the fatherly thing. He's protecting her.
Yeah. So, we get 11's new style, her slicked back hair and her new clothes for her rebellious stage and everything. And we see that the group, they're getting ready to go off to go to Ray's house that we've already talked about. And they're playing that song Cherry Bomb,
Which is in, it's a Marvel movie.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Very good. Very good.
It's very, misfit oriented.
Yeah.
It's a very misfit driven song.
Did you notice that one of the girl with the big hair in the group, she was like carrying a fly swat around?
No.
Yeah. Go back and look. Like they're running away because I don't know, I guess the cops or somebody show up when they're at Ray's house because they're like, they
They
decide.
figure out Ray has kids.
Yeah. Oh, well, 11 decides to show mercy because he has a family and all that. And so they're running away before the cops show up or whatever. And the chick with the really big hair, she's carrying this fly swatter around. Like, what are you going to do with that, lady?
There's an insanity to that.
Yeah. I don't think it's fair that 8 can use her voodoo on 11 because
She showed him Brenner.
yeah, that's not cool, man.
It's really not, and I think it showed the depths that Kylie will go to finish her mission.
Well, and I think she does genuinely care for 11, of course. And I think she's trying to say, hey, I tried to run and they never stopped hunting me. They're never going to stop hunting you. Just stay with me. Strength in numbers, it's the way to
yeah,
go.
and we'll finish them.
Yeah.
We'll slowly track them all down, and we'll finish them all.
Chapter 8, The Mind Flayer. This is picking up where Chapter 6 left off. We saw the claw, the Demogorgon coming up into the lab. All these Demogorgons are coming. It's crazy, chaotic. They decide they need to go turn the power on or something so they can get out because they want to take Will somewhere
Away
else
from the lab.
right? Because like you said, they figured out he's a spy. And Bob volunteers to be the hero. He says, I'll do it.
Well, I mean, there's that whole funny scene where, like, okay, Hopper's trying to be the hero, and he's like, all right, I'll just go reset the power. And he's like, oh, really, Jim? Do you speak binary?
Yeah.
He's like, okay, yeah, just teach me. Okay, how about I teach you basic, too?
Do you even nerd, bro?
Do you even nerd, Hopper?
So
Bob has to be the one to go reset the computers because he's the nerd.
he says, Bob Newby, superhero. It's like, yeah, this should turn out all right.
Yeah, this is going to go good.
And then so he goes and he does what he's supposed to do. And I'm like, Bob, you stupid idiot. You forgot your gun.
Yeah.
Man, that
The minute
might have saved him.
The minute the camera pans and you realize he forgot the gun, you're like, dadgummit, Bob.
Stupid.
You take one step forward and you take 2 steps back.
And of course, poor Bob doesn't make it. The Demogorgons eat him.
They brutalize him.
But hey, you know what? On the bright side, Joyce is pretty devastated about it. So I guess she did really like him.
Yeah.
I
mean, she did. I think she did love him.
Yeah.
And I think in him she saw a way out. Maybe a normalcy possibility of, because he had even talked to her about leaving Hawkins. And
you know what?
I
If
think
Bob had survived, she might have left with him.
she might have.
But hey, if Bob had lived, there may not have been a Stranger Things season 3.
That's true. I mean, because he was like, move up to Maine with me. And I'm sitting there, a Stephen King fan, like, oh, that's not a good idea.
Oh, yeah, that's
Maine
true.
sucks too, Bob.
Yeah. So anyway, the kids have kind of figured out that, similar to season 1, they figured out what the Demogorgon was because of something in their D&D books. They decide that the shadow monster is like the Mind Flayer from D&D, and it's like the big brain monster. It controls all the other monsters.
The
and
hive mind.
Yeah. And that, of course, is what's possessing Will. And they're able to get through to him, to the real Will, and he communicates to him by like tapping out like some Morse code. He says close gate. So he wants them to go back and close the gate where all the monsters are trying to come through from, which is why didn't they think of that to begin with? Of course, I guess they don't know how to close it.
Well, yeah, they don't. And the only person that they think could do it, Harper's the only person who knows she's alive. They still don't know that 11 is alive.
Until she
like,
makes her way back
they
in.
get through to him, but at the same time, like, the phone rings, which triggers Will to then send to the Demodogs, I know where I'm at. Come get me.
Right.
And so they're all like huddled up, very zombie movie, very Left 4 Dead style. They're all huddled up in the living room waiting for the Demodogs to come in. And, like, he gives the rifle to Nancy because she can shoot and Jonathan can't. And, Steve's got his bat and, like, Hopper's got a gun. And, like, they're ready to fight. And then all of a sudden you hear a bunch of commotion outside. And then the door unlatches. And it's probably the most amazing entrance in TV history. Slow-mo 80s walk. 11 walks into the cabin. And it's fantastic.
Okay, that finally brings us to chapter 9, the gate. And I have a question here because I think there's something I missed. There's this scene where they're at Joyce's house and it's Steve and Dustin, and they're like putting a dead Demogorgon into Joyce's fridge.
Yeah.
Where did that thing come from?
That's the Demodog that 11 killed on her way into the house.
Oh, okay.
Because you hear it growling outside, then you hear woof, woof.
Yeah. Okay, I must have missed
That's when
the
she
sound
kills.
effects.
She kills it and throws it through the window. And they're like, you gotta explain to Miss Byers why we're putting this in the freezer. It's like, it's a new species, man. Just chill.
Yeah. So they're all basically trying to have an exorcism for Will here and burn the shadow monster out of him. And it's craziness. They don't know what to do because he's freaking out. And some of the other kids are off in the tunnels trying to distract the Demogorgons from the lab.
Well, and before they get to that, you get a big Billy scene.
Oh yeah.
Like he finally shows up at the Byers' house and
and before that he goes to Will,
hits on Mike's mom.
Mike's house, and there's Mike's mom enjoying her bath, and her husband's asleep, and
she's looking pretty.
She is,
and he's just flirting up a storm with her, and because she's reading a 80s romantic novel that has like his look-alike basically on the novel cover, and she's just like, oh my gosh, like here he is. And so he beats the holy crap out of Steve at the house. Like, poor Steve, like, he cannot stand up for himself. Like, Jonathan beats him up in season 1. The best friend threatens him. Billy beats him up in season 2. And Steve just can't fight. How is he the king of this school if he can't fight? And you have this really cool, when he's beating the crap out of Steve, Max stabs him with a syringe and injects him with that medicine that makes you pass out.
Tranquilizer.
Yeah, tranquilizer basically. And they take off in his hot rod because she's the Zoomer.
Well, then before that, like, Max took Steve's ball bat with the nails in it, and she slams it down right between Billy's legs, almost hitting him right there in the danger zone.
Yes.
She's like, hey man, don't mess around with me anymore, or there's going to be more of this.
Stay away from me and my friends.
He says, okay, I get it, and he passes out, and that's the last we see of him, thankfully, because I can't stand it. He's
doing his job, though.
Yeah.
So you've got the party, as we call them, are in the caverns, the roots, or whatever, and they're trying to cause a distraction to get the Demodogs to get away from Hopper and 11, who are at the lab to close the gate, all while Joyce is trying to basically heat exercise the Shadow Flare, the Mind Flayer, out of Will. So you got 3 big, exciting adventures going on all at once, and it's done well. So
I guess what finally does the trick is when Nancy takes the hot poker and kind of stabs Will with it or something like that, right? And that causes the monster to come out.
Yeah.
And I guess it flies back in through the gate?
Yeah. It flies back. It has to automatically go like back to the upside down.
Okay.
And to try to get out.
Yes.
Again, completely.
Gotcha.
Because it could only possess Will in the upside down. It's trying to get to our world one way or another.
Okay.
So then you've got the Demodogs are going after the party. And you have this really cool scene with Dart and Dustin.
Yeah. And
Dart remembers him and he eats the Three Musketeer and lets them go. And then 11 and Hopper have this epic scene where they're closing the gate. Hopper's, back to back with her and shooting all the Demodogs with his machine guns and his shotguns and all that. And she's floating like a superhero trying to close the gate. Eyes go black. It's just really cool. And
she really finds her power again, channels all her anger into it. But this time, it's not anger directed at Hopper. It's directed at Papa, Dr. Brenner.
True hate.
That's where she really needs to focus on.
But I'll tell you, they obviously didn't watch Star Wars because it's not good to let the hate flow through.
Well, apparently in this world it is. So she does the job. She closes the gate. And it seems like
happy ending.
All our worries are over.
We've got the snowball.
It is a happy ending, except for the fact that we have a funeral for Barb finally.
We finally get justice for Barb. I wouldn't say Barb. Justice, but
It's something at
it's
least.
something at least. You know,
No Bob.
Murray leaks the tapes to all the news outlets that.
Yeah.
And I mean, they shut the lab down.
Yes.
And the doctor that Hopper and 11 ended up saving, Paul Reiser's character, makes it. He pulls some strings and legally has Hopper adopt 11.
Sure.
So 11's his. Jane is his kid, and now it's the winter ball, the dance, the snowball that they were talking about in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
That Mike was hinting at 11, and we get to see it.
It's a great scene, but have you noticed that time after time is like the only 80s slow dance song that they ever use in movies ever?
Ain't that the truth?
When you're lost and you're looking at me. Yeah. Poor Dustin gets shot down by that girl named Stacy. You know what? Girls named Stacy are the worst. Nobody has ever had one good experience with a girl named Stacy, and I'm sorry if you're listening and your name is Stacy. You're probably the one exception.
Or you're not. Maybe
you're not.
Maybe this is time to look in the mirror, Stacy.
Come on, Stace.
So, but Nancy ends up dancing with him.
Yeah.
It's so cute.
Yeah.
Because
Nancy's
it kind of
cool.
plays back to that, and the Duffers Are Brilliant plays back to first episode of season 1. He offers her the pizza. She shuts the door in his face. He goes, "Man, your sister's really changed." And it kind of hints back to that. You know, like, she comes in for the rescue and dances with him. And she says,
out of all my brother's friends, you're my
favorite. Girls this age are stupid, but don't worry, they grow up.
Yeah, especially girls named Stacy. I'm just kidding. I don't have any experiences with anybody named Stacy. I just didn't like that girl being mean to Dustin, so I'm taking it out on all the Stacys.
And you get a look between Nancy and Jonathan. Jonathan's taking the pictures at the dance.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve actually drove Dustin, gave him the TED Talk. You know, he
Helped
did
him
the
with his hair.
He's got the hair looks good, man. I mean,
well, I guess it looked good for 1984.
And
I didn't
you get
care for
the
it.
Hopper Joyce moment in the parking lot.
Yeah, they've got some history, I think, and
They
maybe
do.
a little something brewing there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful for that.
He talked about how they would skip class and share cigarettes and
share
stuff.
cigarettes,
so.
and that teacher retired.
I like how it was very vague. Like, it's clear, like, there was something, they had a little bit of history, but they didn't go into a lot of detail about it. That was all you needed.
Well, and it's funny because if you think back to season 1, Lonnie, the ex-husband, makes a snide comment about Hopper still the chief, and she's like, "Lonnie, stop." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So they all three went to school together, I'm guessing, but just like the Duffers do so well, it doesn't end there.
You know, we've got 11 and Mike having their dance and their awkward middle school kiss and stuff. And we see the camera start to tilt and turn upside down, and we see the upside down world once again. And there's the shadow monster just hovering over the school. What a great way to end it.
Yeah. Oh, he's mad.
So from what it seems like from the trailer for season 3, he's going to be the monster for that season again as well.
I'm guessing either him or he finds, or there's
Someone
another
else
creature to possess. Maybe he possesses Billy.
Maybe. If you watch the trailer, there's this weird voice saying, like, you know, you let us in, now you have to let us stay, and stuff like that. Like, I'm wondering what that is.
And do you know that Carrie Elwes is in it?
Yes, I do know that.
I guess he's like a mayor.
Maybe like a mayor or
something.
mayor
He brings
candidate.
the mall. He brings this new futuristic type mall. He's like, it's 1986 or something, 85, and he's like, and we got a mall, baby,
Yeah.
you know. And then there's this Buscemi, his son, not Buscemi, Gary Busey's son,
Really?
plays this creepy role.
Oh.
He's in the season, and
Okay.
he's the epitome of the 80s, just like his father. So some additions, some casting additions, and now it looks like Mad Max and 11 are great friends. in the
They're
trailer.
sitting there, and, you know,
Rocking
listening
out.
to music.
I think
having
they're
girl talk.
high school now. They're in high school now.
I would
think.
imagine so. Lots of changes and things for the
I
kids.
mean, they're getting older,
They are indeed.
They're getting
But
older.
the trailer looks great. I'm really excited about
and
it.
we'll share it after this episode airs. We will share the trailer on our
Sure.
Facebook page, and if you haven't seen it, then you'll see it there.
Yeah, and definitely we'll give you guys a few weeks or so to watch Stranger Things 3, and we'll get together and we'll talk about Season 3 as well, right?
Absolutely. And just like last one, I have 11 unknown facts about Season 2
Awesome.
of Stranger Things.
Let's hear it.
So, in the first 3 days, that season 2 aired, just in the first 3 days, on average, 8.8 million people binged season 2 within those 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And I was one of them. And that's crazy numbers. And it actually affected Netflix. Like, Netflix had to say streaming may be slow for a while. They broke Twitter also, apparently.
Well,
and
there are worse problems to have,
yeah,
I'd say.
there is.
Like, hey, this great thing that we've done's broken the internet and caused, it's affected the way our service works. Not such a good thing, but at the same time, awesome thing.
We broke it. Yes. Fact 2, Dacre Montgomery, who plays Billy, was created to replace what Steve was supposed to be.
Yes, I did know that.
And he did it better. he was
sure
a better bad guy.
Because I love Steve and I hate Billy. So.
Speaking of Dacre, his audition tape was him dancing shirtless in a G-string to Come On Eileen. Yeah. It's actually on YouTube.
Makes perfect sense.
It's on YouTube. You can see his audition. And he says in the tape, he's like, I'll either get work or I'll never work again after this audition tape.
For me, that's a hard no.
Fact 3. Millie Bobby Brown in the scene with Papa. That little scene that Kylie created in Eleven's mime. Those were real tears. Because of the performance of the guy who plays Brenner and the fact that she had no idea he was coming in that scene. She thought it was going to be a voice in her head. And then Brenner walks in. That reaction was
You mean
her.
they didn't prepare for that?
No, that reaction was her. And she cried for another 45 minutes after the take, just breaking down, just the emotion of seeing him after everything season 1 put their characters through. She actually played on that and remembered it.
She's going to go on, I'm telling you, to be like a legend.
Oh, yeah.
I think one day.
Yeah. If she survives being a child star.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But, 30 years from now, hopefully, we'll be talking about movies she's doing then, too, I think. Because she's that good.
I think so. Fact numero 4. Gayton, who plays Dustin, actually came up with the purr on his own. That was his idea. Because they played this whole, his teeth grew in season 2. And so he'd start doing this little... And he's like, they can't resist these pearly whites, man. That was Gayton just playing around, and they liked it, so they kept it.
It's pretty funny.
Millie's hair in the flashbacks in season 2, when they flash back to shortly after Hopper found her, was completely CGI'd.
Okay.
Yeah, she was buzzed for 11, and for a while, but while they were filming that scene, they were like, "Oh man, she's supposed to have hair, but it's shaved right now." So they CGI'd that hair that she's wearing. The Mind Flayer was actually not created and based for this season off of D&D. It was created off of H.P. Lovecraft's idea of an interdimensional being.
Interesting.
That he used to write about.
Okay.
Which is cool, but they still played D&D into it. The Duffers drew from popular 80s movie sequels like Terminator 2 and Aliens to give this season a sequel feel. And I think they succeeded in that.
For sure.
Sean Astin and Paul Reiser were reached out to play in season 2 to add that 80s nostalgia because they were both definitely icons in the 80s. Bob was actually supposed to be killed off way sooner than he was, but his likability, his work ethic, and passion for the character of Bob made the Duffers decide to keep him around longer.
Good.
And I'm happy they did.
Good choice.
Yes. And finally, the actors who play Lucas, Dustin, and Max already knew each other from Broadway. Gayton, who plays Dustin, was Gavroche in Les Mis. Caleb, who plays Lucas, was Simba in The Lion King. And Sadie, who plays Max, was Annie on Broadway. So they all grew up in Broadway knowing each other. And I think that just helped add the camaraderie in the show. Those are your 11 facts, unknown facts about Stranger Things Season 2.
And I think that's a wrap on Stranger Things Season 2.
Absolutely.
And that means that the next time you hear from us, the dreaded day will have come and gone.
Oh, no.
Me, your favorite host out of the two of us, we all know it's true. I will officially be 30. Officially. We will officially be 30 and nerdy. But you know, on the bright side, I know just the thing that will cheer me up.
What?
Next week, let's talk about my favorite superhero of all time, who just so happens to have a movie coming out in the next few days.
Yes.
Let's talk about Spider-Man.
It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a great transition into the next, I guess, series of movies. It's the official end of Phase 4.
That's it. The end.
I think it'll be. It's not so big like Endgame to be wow, and it's going to be kind of a nice, refreshing. Just even though it's going to be great, it's also kind of a calm down moment.
Seems like it's kind of like the epilogue of
Yes.
Endgame, right?
Yeah, the epilogue.
And then we have to wait for a while before we get anything more from the MCU.
Yeah, until D23 tells us what's coming. So
It's going to be a long wait. But hey, you know what? I'm really excited to talk about Spider-Man. He's my absolute favorite. So can't wait to sit down and do this with you again, my brother.
yeah, man.
And as far as all you guys out there, we will catch you later, nerds.
That's right. He will not be able to resist these pearls. Grrr.